Presentation made by Secretary Aguirre of the Department of Justice. In the first place, it is not proscribed by our rules in the committee. And second, Mr. Chairman, if we did not allow the Secretary of Justice to make the presentation by asking the witnesses that he presented, and instead he will be making a presentation if he is treated a resource speaker as and on the basis of his own. We cannot expect the good secretary to be testifying on factual matters because he does not stay or he is not an inmate. Therefore, he will be laboring under a testimony that is based on speculation and third-person information. Accordingly, Mr. Chairman, this representation believes that in addition to the fact that it is not proscribed by our rules, the presentation of Secretary Aguirre yesterday was itself a presentation of a resource person. And instead of testifying on the basis of his own knowledge, he adopted the testimony of the witnesses as part of his presentation so that whatever was testified to yesterday was factual in nature. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Chairman, that is all.
Maraming salamat, Deputy Speaker. Puro mga bidista po itong nag-uusap na ito. Si Deputy Speaker Castro is from San Beda. Of course, ang ating pong Secretary of Justice is also from San Beda. May sabi nga sa akin ni Majority Floor Leader, this is a Bedan show. Kanya lang, unfortunately, one of the casualties, maybe, hindi ko pa naman sinasabi, maybe also a Bedan. So anyway, we will recognize now, Harry.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I have two manifestations. The first really is in support already of what you have mentioned. But I'd like to call the attention of this committee that in the Philippine Daily Inquirer, some of our colleagues, just because Secretary Aguirre was allowed to conduct the examination, referred to our investigation as political persecution. For the record, Mr. Chair, I would like to register the fact that I resent such a comment coming from our colleagues, especially since the person who described this as a political persecution did not even bother to show up in this committee. If he has criticisms against this committee, he should ventilate his criticisms before this committee and not before the media. That's the manly thing to do. So if you have criticisms, especially the Independent Liberal Party claiming to be the minority, they should ventilate in the committee and not in a press conference, because in articulating such messages, they're putting members of this committee in very bad light, and I resent that. My second manifestation, Your Honor, has to do with a request made by Justice Carl Miranda of the Sandigan Bayan, who in the film clip yesterday was then Assistant Solicitor General. He was shown in the film clip together with legal interns visiting Muntinlupa, and it was as if the reporter concluded that Carl Miranda and the legal internship program of the Solicitor General were endorsing J.B. Sebastian. So he texted me with the request to make of record that they did not know on that occasion that they were going to listen to the performance of J.B. Sebastian. They were in Muntinlupa as part of the legal internship program of the OSG, and they wanted the legal interns to appreciate the condition in Muntinlupa because they wanted to underscore the fact that there is a need to promote humane treatment even in the National Penitentiary. And in fact, I share the concern of Justice Miranda because in the same film clip, two of my junior associates in my law offices who were then students who were part of the film clip. No? So for the record, there was no endorsement whatsoever coming from Justice Miranda or the Office of Solicitor General for any of the activities being perpetrated by JB Sebastian, which of course is not true in the case of former Justice Secretary Laila de Lima. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. The committee takes note of the manifestations of the Honorable Roque. With respect to the second manifestation, Secretary Aguirre, I think this was in the film clip, and you may wish to conduct an inquiry separate from here, because this is something that you have shown us, and there may be need for some clarification on that, most specifically with respect to that portion involving Justice Miranda, to disabuse the minds of, well, first and foremost, the Secretary and the Department of his involvement therein. If your investigation will result that or will confirm what Congressman Roque has said, no? So, and likewise for the consumption of the public, and we would request you to please come back to us and please make the necessary correction of information only with respect to that point raised by Congressman Roque. On the first manifestation, again, the committee takes note of that, and please include please remind me that we will probably have to take this up with the majority floor leader or even the speaker in private, so that we can resolve issues within the confines of the House of Representatives.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Chairman.
Before you, Vice Chair Womenal.
Okay then. Mr. Chair, thank you very much. In addition to your explanation, as the Vice Chair in charge with this with the subcommittee on correctional affairs, yesterday in my opening statement, we are conducting this investigation in order to ferret out the truth in relation to the resolution number 105, which calls for an investigation in the proliferation of illegal drugs in the National Bilibid Prison. We had invited resource speakers, and we invited the Secretary of Justice, Secretary Aguirre, and the other members of his official family, because his office has investigated these inmates and public officers. The committee allowed him to present his investigation and the witnesses in relation to the subject matter of this inquiry. The Secretary of Justice is not the counsel of these witnesses, but a resource person of the committee. And as we had noticed yesterday, all the members were allowed to interpellate after the presentation of the witnesses, and they were allowed to examine the witnesses and even test their respective credibility. I hope this will add and enlighten those who tend to question the proceedings of this committee. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, point of clarification.
Before that, Congressman, Deputy Speaker Castro, and then unless you are...
Mr. Chairman, I yield in the meantime in favor of the gentleman.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. That is the reason why I sat beside you. That is precisely the reason. Mr. Chair, salamat po. Just some clarifications as your good colleague on your left-hand side saying that this is a matter of ferreting out the truth. And by doing so, I would like to clarify first of all, because the invitations, as I can now sense, was only given to the Department of Justice, personified by the Secretary of Justice, and the high-value inmates. I'd like to know, for everybody's knowledge, if there was a formal invitation also extended to the subject matter of this investigation, the Senator Laila De Lima in particular.
Yes, I think you were the one who read into the records the invitation made.
In yesterday's hearing, Deputy Speaker Rani Abo had read the invitation letter extended to the good senator, which was duly received by her staff in the office.
But considering her earlier pronouncements, Mr. Chair, that this committee hearing is a sham, and this is more or less a discredited congressional hearing based on her perception, did we also, in that invitation, did we at least indicate to her that if she did not want or she doesn't want to come over to testify or probably inform the committee oversight, did we also indicate that she can probably send a representative or a counsel who might be able to speak in her behalf? Because if we are really trying to ferret out the truth, it is not supposed to be a one-sided hearing. Because if all the testimonies are only coming out from one side, I'm afraid that we are not really trying to ferret out the truth. So it is important that we give her also the latitude to probably send a battery of lawyers, probably. Not a battalion, only a handful of battery of lawyers who can probably represent her and be in a position to also cross-examine the witnesses which the Justice Department will be able to put out against her.
According to the COMSEC, she was her representative or lawyer.
There are lawyers coming from the office of Senator De Lima. Is that correct?
I do not know. But anyway, even in my interviews, I told her that we will give her all the opportunity to come here, or even with her representative or lawyer. But there is no one. Is there any one who represents Senator Laila in this committee hearing? So no answer, so that means that she didn't want to participate. Anyway, we have already covered this, and as I said in my interviews, this is her lookout. We cannot be faulted if she does not participate or she does not send a representative or lawyer. We will proceed, and we do not want to spend more time here, so that if we can just continue. Congressman Castro, do you still have any additional assistant? Wala.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Whatever the opposition or the minority would come out in the press.
Maganda yung no wireless. Mas maganda yung wireless. So, dapat wireless na lahat.
Pasensya na kayo, may technical problems on our mic. Explain. Sagutin na natin.
Ito sa.
Hindi ko naman.
O ito, pwede.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to comment on the press release of the opposition or the minority. I think as members of the House or independent minority, I think, Mr. Chairman, we should not take it against them. In fact, we should respect whatever they come with, because that's part of their job to be in the independent minority. And second, we are all brothers. We are all colleagues in the House. And whatever they say in the press is part of the freedom of press that we should respect. Therefore, let them do their job and let us do our job too. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Congressman Carbin, you're recognized. Something is wrong,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Last week, Mr. Chairman, I heard over the radio the interview of Secretary Vitaliano Aguirre. It was on the program of Kabayan. That was on Friday, I think, Secretary. Friday morning. And you mentioned about presenting witnesses with handwritten affidavits, if I'm not mistaken. So you will confirm it.
Ganito po ang pangyayari. Ako po ay hindi abogado nung mga witnesses. Makikita ninyo na nang mag-testify sila, mayroon silang mga kanya-kanyang abogado sa tabi nila. Ngayon, ang sabi ko sa kanila, gawa ng napakadali lamang talikuran ng isang affidavit kahit sa ilalim pa ng panunumpa. Kukunan ninyo ng video habang kinukunan ninyo ng statement, at kung maaari, kunan ninyo ng handwritten statement yung gist o yung maiksing salaysay nila para talagang hindi nila maitatanggi. Yan po ang payo ko sa mga abogado nung kanilang mga abogado ng mga high-profile inmates. Kaya as to whether sinunod dyan o hindi ng kanilang mga abogado, I could not confirm it, pero alam ko na mayroong gumawa o sumunod doon sa aking advice.
So, for those who heed to your advice that they have to execute a handwritten affidavits.
Opo, at gusto ko rin po sana paliwanag na katulad nung sinabi raw ni Father Reynaldo Aquino na isang Medan Dean of the Graduate School of Law, na yun daw pong sa tingin daw po niya yung testimony ni Major Magleo kahapon ay parang rehearsed namin. Ang totoo po niyan, hindi ko pa nakausap yang si Major Magleo except in the morning kahapon for about 10 minutes. Yun lamang po ang pag-uusap namin ni Major Magleo, except nung bisitahin ko siya nung Sunday. Pero pinaalam ko sa inyo, Father Reynaldo, na hindi po ako nag-rehearse ng witness, at kung rehearse ko man yung witness na yan, ay sasabihin ko lamang sa kanya na magsabi lamang siya ng katotohanan.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. But going back to the handwritten affidavits, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, parliamentary inquiry.
Yes.
I submit, Mr. Chair, that the parliamentary status is that we are now on the stage for the Secretary of Justice to continue presenting his testimony by presenting witnesses which were investigated by him in the course of his investigation. In view hereof, Mr. Chair, I move that we will now allow the Secretary to proceed with his presentation of witnesses.
Mr. Chairman,
in connection with the investigation.
With due respect to the Vice Chairman, I still have the floor, Mr. Chairman, and let me finish. Just One more
Can you
question.
please wind up?
Yeah,
You know
I'm-
what is more important?
I'm
like
winding up.
yesterday is the witnesses, because there are a lot of logistical requirements needed. So let's first work on getting the testimonies of this witness, and then we
Yes.
can open the floor for interpellations again.